Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. It's Gumdrops here with the 5th episode of my gold making and World of Warcraft economy series for the Method YouTube channel. This time we're discussing the launch of patch 8.15 and some of the unintended side effects that came with it, along with the expectations I mentioned last time heading into the patch versus the reality of things now that it's arrived, plus the most recent developer Q&A with game director Ian Hazacostas and community manager Law did actually feature an economy based question, so I'll be analysing their answer and speculating on what's to come. It's been a few weeks now since patch 8.15 was released, and things have settled down a bit after the tools of the trade and even some undocumented or unexpected changes made it to the live servers. First of all, you may have noticed an incredibly dramatic price drop for Kraken's Eye Purple Uncut Gem, which was caused by a change to mass prospecting monolite ore. The amount of Kraken's Eye you get for each mass prospect was significantly buffed, which led to a stampede on the market as people tried to catch that tipping point where they still held some value but were much easier to obtain. This didn't last long, of course. As always, when supply outstrips demand, the prices will tumble. Looking here at the region-wide chart for European servers, we can see the extent of the damage, where the purple gems were trading for around 2,400 gold with a steady stock listed on the auction house before the patch. Afterwards, a 900% increase in available stock led to a 70% loss in value. Some very high population servers even saw prices fall as low as 20 gold apiece. And I feel the worst part about this situation is we don't even really know if this was intended or not. There's no real reason or prompt for this change, so if it is eventually reverted, which is not particularly likely at this point, it would take a long time to recover the market to what it was before patch 8.15. In addition, I always encourage you guys to stay alert on patch notes and PTR changes so you can prepare as best as possible, but these kind of unannounced and stealth changes can really hurt your bottom line if you're stuck with a huge stockpile of items that previously had no reason to lose value. Another specific broken system was the alchemy cauldrons that were accessible after obtaining Silas's Sphere of Transmutation, or the alchemy tool of the trade. They were essentially respawning much quicker than intended, which led to some players farming many more flasks and potions than expected. This was quickly changed, however, so it didn't have too much of an impact on the market as an isolated event. Interestingly though, this activity was not sanctioned like the XP potion exploit that some of you guys may be familiar with, so there is some inconsistency here in how Blizzard approaches these activities, and there is nobody except Blizzard that has the authority to say this is bannable. Don't risk your accounts, especially when it comes to what they consider an abuse of the economy. This is still a specific sanction that can become permanent, and it's simply not worth it at the end of the day. Speaking of the tools of the trade though, the alchemy transmutation buff that gives you an extra chance of crafting more potions and flasks on top of the extra chance you get from having rank 3 in the recipe is essentially required in order to remain competitive when you're going for volume of sales instead of strategic posting at different price points. For every craft you make with both rank 3 and the tool, on average you'd get an additional 3/4 of a craft, i.e. the proc rate works out to be approximately 1.75. Thanks to BlazeChew on Reddit for sharing some initial data on the alchemy tool. They also shared some stats for Ewan's enchanting rod after they crafted 1,632 braces with tight spray linen. They scrapped all of the greens and disenchanted all of the blues. After that they made more braces with the expulsum they generated, then disenchanted those braces as well, and ended up with 378 gloom dust, 787 umbra shards, and 355 veiled crystals. This basically doubled their money. However, it's a big time sink and requires a bit of patience while you craft a lot, scrap a lot, and disenchant a lot, and so on. If you're watching Netflix or your favourite streamer, you can certainly do this on the side, but for me this gets very boring very quickly. All the other tools of the trade are very disappointing. None of them really change anything or are even worth crafting, so I'm not going to go into too many details on them. I still would have liked to have seen a questline for the gathering professions, especially herbalism. This could have led to the seed system from Legion being reintroduced and prompt a return of seed raids, which I think was a fantastic unintended consequence of the multi-tap node system. If you're listening, Blizzard, please bring more collaborative profession systems. I know they're not listening, but they did take some time to answer an economy question in a recent developer Q&A. You can imagine my shock while Community Manager Law read a question posed by Jito on Twitter about their thoughts on gold as a currency in today's game, if they're happy with the cost of repairs and the gold gained from completing quests, and also if they had any comments on the prevalence of players offering services in exchange for gold. I guess the premise of the question is to address the surge of advertising messaging in global channels and forums, etc., which Ian does touch on, but firstly he goes into the adjustments made in the economy from their side since the launch of Battle for Azeroth. Ian wants gold to remain important and wants to make sure that it still has value, since this is what makes a good stable economy in the game. If you get any kind of item from a raid or rare transmog, Ian wants players to feel happy about selling it, otherwise it would make a very dull and flat economy in World of Warcraft. He describes that they've made many adjustments to the economy in Battle for Azeroth, such as the Paragon cash rewards, emissary rewards, and a bump in gold per world quest completed, while also reducing the amount of gold generated from the mission tables. As I've always said, the outcome of the Draenor mission tables in the Garrison and the mission tables in the Legion class Order Hall was not fully intended, and because of that, Ian describes how inflated the economy became. Right now, the state of the economy is something the developers are pretty happy with. He then discusses the idea that I've discussed a number of times where players have an inherent cost to function in the game, such as repairs mentioned in the question, travel costs and other basics and necessities. This is a number that they do track and line up with the average daily, weekly or monthly revenue for a player just playing the game, or as Ian describes it, naturally engaging with World of Warcraft. However, since you're listening to this, you're probably inclined to want more than that, which Ian refers to as a valid primary objective in the game, and considers that type of player an auction house baron, or maybe you're a baroness, that should feel rewarded for chasing things like the auction house mount or other massive gold sinks and luxury items. I'd like to give a big shout out to Ian for recognising this. It definitely makes me more appreciative of how delicate the in-game economy is and how difficult it is to satisfy players like us while making the game accessible to the average player. Addressing the last part of the question, Ian refers to his own vanilla raiding guild experience selling trinkets for several thousand gold back in Blackwing Lair, and doesn't see a time in World of Warcraft when selling runs or a service for gold was not a thing. If players have gold and gold is valuable, they'll always want to trade it, and there'll always be a way to facilitate that. As Ian says in the Q&A, it's better for that to be handled with in-game currencies than sketchy third-party services. However, he definitely acknowledged that it's a bit over the top where your local trade channel is dominated by this service advertising. Ian's final thought on gold boosts is that if you don't have the social network or perhaps the skill set in order to achieve these things, and you have the gold to buy an experience, there's nothing that they can do inherently to stop that. To me though, where things might improve is some form of dedicated user interface or tool in-game that allowed communities or individuals to promote their services, so they're not filling trade chats or the LFG tool interfering with players going about their normal business. So what do you guys think? How has patch 8.15 treated you so far? Have you left any markets on the auction house because of the changes, or have you found new profits with the tools of the trade? Do you personally buy or sell services for gold? What's your opinion on its practice? Let me know in the comments, where I'll be hanging out as usual answering any questions you might have about gold making or the World of Warcraft economy. I do hope you found something interesting or informative again this month. If you did, be sure to leave a like on the video or let us know as well with a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to get the next episode and all of Method's videos directly in your feed. This has been Gumdrops with Method on behalf of wowhead.com. Thank you so much for listening if you have been. You can catch my streams every week through the link in the description below, or tweet me any of your thoughts and feedback. Until next time guys, take it easy and happy gold making.